They just don't have any solid leads on the identification of the subject.
It appears as though he may be scoping things out, but it's more so he's like buying time. He's almost waiting until he knows where he wants to go and what he wants to do.
He's engaging in that pre-attack surveillance, that right before, making sure it's a soft target, making sure there's no law enforcement in sight, and just rehearsing his attack right before he goes in that building and commits it.
Breaking news now in the manhunt for the Brown University shooter. Now in its 5th day, Providence police are now looking for a second person who was, quote, in the proximity of the person of interest. Wow, a lot we are learning minute by minute as this goes on. I'm Sandra Smith in New York. John, good to be with you.
Good to be with you as well, Sandra. I'm John Roberts in Washington, and this is America Reports. That headline comes as new video lays out a timeline of the potential shooter's movements in 15 different clips, up to 2 hours before and just minutes after the deadly mass shooting.
We have Fox Team coverage for you kicking off right now with Paul Morrow, who is on the ground digging into this new timeline.
But first to our national correspondent, Brian Yennis. He leads us off in Providence with the latest. Brian?
John and Sandra, good afternoon. This news breaking within the last half hour. The Providence police releasing new images of a second person. Now, I want to be careful with how I use the language, so I'll read what they just posted on X. They said investigators are asking for the public's help in identifying and speaking to the individual shown in these photos who was in proximity of the person of interest. We have a press conference, that is a news conference, I should say, that is scheduled for 5 p.m. today. There'll be a lot of questions about that. Now, these new images come a day after the Providence police released new enhanced video of the primary person of interest we've been talking about, 5'8" with a stocky build, walking around the nearby neighborhood as early as 10:30 a.m., 5.5 hours before the shooting. They're hoping someone out there will recognize the way that he walks and carries his weight. Sometimes he's seen wearing a satchel, sometimes he's not. Investigators say the video released is the best video they have of this person. Now, back out here in front of the Barris and Holly building, I want to give people an idea of the timeline and sort of what we now know based on the FBI's information. Behind me is the north entrance, sort of the back entrance, loading dock, and parking lot. The FBI has focused a ton of energy on that entrance. We've seen people in Tyvek suits and cameras looking at that. It's believed, based on what we know, that the gunman, primary person of interest, the suspect, came out of that entrance or exit and started walking this way and passing this dumpster. Now, over the last few days, we've seen FBI agents in Tyvek suits inside of that dumpster. This is a school parking lot. Now, after he goes by this way, according to what the FBI timeline says, that person of interest is seen on a surveillance video 2 blocks away, and he crossing Hope Street. You can see him running through crossing Hope Street, which is behind that vehicle. I don't know if Dave can show that pole to the left of that car, but there is a surveillance video at 4:03 p.m. that shows the primary person of interest running past that pole across Hope Street to Waterman. The person of interest is seen for the last time at 4:06 p.m. going down Waterman Street. Now, it's really interesting to note here, the cameras have been a big issue in this investigation. Dave, if you just look around this parking lot, just show everybody, there are no cameras that we can see out here, right outside of the Barris and Hawley building. You can see there are no cameras that we see visible to the eye. So that is something that has been a big sticking point in this investigation. The only camera, again, that catches this primary person of interest is down the block all the way over there, running out. So that is where we're at now with the investigation. John and Sandra.
All right, thanks. And we look forward to more updates as the hours and days progress. Brian Yennis for us. Brian, thank you. Sandra?
All right, let's bring in retired NYPD inspector and Fox News contributor Paul Morrow, who's also live on the scene there in Providence. So much I want to ask you about based on what we're now learning. First of all, the university and the local police there told students, staff, administration that there was no immediate threat on campus, that they should feel secure while also remaining vigilant. Now learning they're looking for a person of interest connected to the person of interest. I mean, are people safe that are still there?
I mean, it's very hard to say. Just let's remember that they sent everybody home. The school has told everybody that finals are canceled. School is over for the semester. And that's apparent here on the streets. They're relatively deserted. To be clear, The building that we're at, which is where the shooting occurred, is right on the edge. It's realistically the first aspect of Brown University that you hit when you walk out of the adjacent residential neighborhood. There's a neighborhood right here. It's very affluent, a lot of houses that are behind walls, well set back, which I think explains the paucity of private videos that they've been able to get from Ring cameras and the like. So whether or not they're safe, the police very clearly, they're trying to walk that fine line between creating an element of panic, but reassuring people that they're doing everything that they can and that people should go about their lives.
Paul, okay, so you mentioned students leaving campus. There's been some who have taken issue with that because obviously with the lack of cameras and video surveillance footage, many are wondering, are they letting some of the students go that could have been eyewitnesses that could help aid this investigation? Should there be further interviews or more interviews that haven't happened yet, Paul? Is there a risk to letting all these people go home?
Yeah, there is. You're absolutely right. And we saw this. I know I've name checked it before, but the public knows it, so I use it. The Koberger case. That happened, University of Idaho at Moscow. And same situation there. They canceled the rest of classes. The kids that were going to the school, they all dispersed. And as a result, when it came time to do some interviews, they had to actually rely on police all around the country to go knock on doors and ask, were you there and what did you see? I suspect there's going to be some of that here as well. And there's also the fact that, as I said, because this is adjacent to a residential neighborhood, during the weekend, in the immediate aftermath of the event, because it happened on a Saturday, a lot of these people were not home. Some of them might not still be home because they may be gone to Florida for the season or something like that. And that's why you're seeing video dribble in, because they're canvassing very hard, going further and further out, trying to get a hold of people that have either just returned or maybe even getting a hold of them wherever they are and saying, can you get somebody to let us in and access your Ring camera? Or they're going right to the source and saying, we need a consent from you because we're going to pull video from the video company.
I mean, you think that could happen faster than it is, but I don't know enough to be a critic of that. I also want to ask you about a discussion I just had with my colleagues downstairs on Outnumbered. Kayleigh Mackin and I were discussing, obviously, there are going to be parents who are going to be very concerned about sending their kids to a university where we're learning there wasn't an abundant camera presence. We're learning to pull enough surveillance footage to catch this person this long after this crime happened. As far as armed security on campus, Kayleigh and I were wondering what you can tell us about that since you're on the ground there. Is the security on campus at Brown armed?
Brown has its own police force.
Mm-hmm.
They're an actual gun-carrying police force, the Brown University Police, and they actually responded. Ultimately, they were the ones who would be responsible for activating the sirens, et cetera. They have a chief of security as well. And I think, Sandra, and not to use an unfortunate metaphor, but you're right over the target, because you got to say to yourself, how is it that in a building that is not only at the edge of campus, which says to me, you got to be very cognizant of people wandering in and out, not even shooters, just trespassers, people that are homeless or people looking to do a burglary. How is it that the outer salient of your campus, which is where one of the most busy classes that they have is held, how is it that the ingress and egress doesn't have a simple camera, the kind of Ring cameras that we're even talking about in a private home? Costs next to nothing in the course of a university budget. They don't have that. On a day that there were a number of things going on a Saturday during final season, they apparently had either propped open the door or literally deactivated the card access during the day, and there was no security guard. So you really do have to question why it is that the building was so insecure and why we're not hearing more about that. Let's remember, a place like Brown drives the economy in this town. And I don't think it's any accident that there have been so many politicians at the lectern, and yet we're not hearing a whole lot from Brown security.
I mean, where's the head of security protocol for the university to explain what the protocol was and what the protocol is? Final question. I mean, does it stump you that there's not just more eyewitness video footage? I mean, we were also just discussing you can't go anywhere now without, 20 cameras up and catching something, anything that is happening at any given moment anywhere. Why have we not seen any further video of what went down that day, that hour?
Well, like I said, you know, the school, he fled into the residential neighborhood from the edge of the school campus. So you can take the school off the table. And as I said, then you're down to the local residences. There are other things you can hope for here relative to video. A lot of car dash cams have video these days. Somebody might have got picked up. Hopefully they're looking at that and they're hoping people will come forward with something like that. But the fact that video is still, you know, sort of coming in, I think shows you they are pressing on that front. We got this new image of a person of interest. They're not couching that as a person that replaces the original one. They seem to be saying maybe somebody who knows something or somebody who might be involved. And there's some hopeful signs in that video. I only took a quick look. We just got it. But he's holding a bag. The original perp was holding a bag as well that then is not in some of the other videos. Where'd that bag go? This person also seems to be walking.
Sorry, Paul, you're generating so many more questions, I'm sure, for viewers at home. But the person of interest yelled something, correct? And we're still not told what that person yelled while carrying out the crimes?
Yeah, reportedly he did. And, you know, that's another question I have, because I'm wondering if this study hall was either live streamed or maybe some of the students in there were recording it. That would be common so that you could review your notes. I'm wondering if everybody in that room has been interviewed to say, did you record the session so that we can review what he yelled or if he did yell? So look, there are a lot of questions here. I'm sure they're pressing on all this. And all I would say, Sandra, as you and I talked about yesterday, I believe, remember the Koberger case. For 6 weeks, everybody said these guys don't know what they're doing. They're chasing their tails. And then when it all came out, everybody was quite impressed. So let's give them some time. When you don't get an immediate solve, that doesn't mean the case is over. And I still think they'll get there.
So it sounds like you're saying have faith in the process. You're on the ground. You're gathering information. You see the investigation at work. I guess my final question is, do students come back from the break if this guy's still on the loose?
I think they're going to have to. At the end of the day, the school's got to operate. I mean, obviously, that's a call that the university is going to have to make. But I would imagine you're going to see a significantly different security posture at this university going forward. And frankly, from where I sit, that's pretty long overdue.
Wow. Paul Morrow on the ground there in Providence, Rhode Island for us on that. So many questions. Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.
All right, let's go to Providence. Police releasing new enhanced video giving us a better look at the person of interest in the deadly Brown University shooting.
Paul Morrow is live on the Brown University campus in Providence, Rhode Island. Hey, Paul.
So good morning, gang. Providence police say they have video showing the person of interest casing out the area here in Providence as early as 10:35 on Saturday, around 5.5 hours prior to the shooting. Now, the Attorney General says so far the video that's been released is the best they have of this person of interest. Police have no information about how old he is.
And our top story this hour, 4 days since the deadly mass shooting at Brown University. Authorities there are still searching for a suspect. Providence, Rhode Island police releasing this enhanced video of the suspect moving around Brown's campus before and after the shooting. They are now asking for the public's help with the manhunt. This is the Faulkner Focus. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Banderas in for Harris today. We're going to take a closer look at that newly released footage. A little more than an hour before the shooting, the suspect was walking through the streets about a block away from campus. And shortly after the shooting, the suspect moved through a school parking lot past the police. He then walked onto a nearby street where he was able to slip away somehow. There are many gaps in his movements, prompting big questions over the lack of security of cameras on campus and the location of the city. State and city officials, meanwhile, on that.
That older part of the building, there are fewer, if any, cameras in that location. I imagine because it's an older building.
There's an old building, and the camera system that they have in that building is not upgraded as like some other areas. So I think what would have been helpful more is if obviously there was a newer system in place that would have helped us a lot more.
Take a look at this map. It shows all the surveillance cameras on campus. That big blind spot you see there, circled in red, represents the area of the shooting scene. Former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker and retired NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow are coming up. But first, national correspondent Brian Yennis is in Providence with the very latest on the investigation and manhunt there. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Julie. Well, just moments ago, we saw FBI agents on the east side of the entrance of the building searching for evidence here. They were looking in the bushes. They were taking photos. Now, if you pan over here, you can see this is the entrance to the Barris and Holly building. Those doors were unlocked because it was final exam period. Now, we found out yesterday the Providence police say that at 10:30 a.m., that was the first sighting they found on camera of this person of interest, 5.5 hours before the shooting. Let's take a look at that enhanced video once again. It shows a 5'8" man, stocky build. He's walking around the residential neighborhood right next to the Barris and Holly building. They're hoping someone will recognize how he walks and moves. The Attorney General says the videos released so far are the best they have of the person of interest. Now, at some point, you see that he's wearing a satchel, and at other times he's not. They have no information about how old he is, and nothing to suggest that he's a Brown University student or a staff member. The Attorney General for the Rhode Island says they are looking into whether the gunman yelled something during the shooting.
There is no information that the investigative team has about motive. Zero. There's nothing about, even if taking at face value what one or two witnesses may have said about what something was said, okay, and there are many witnesses that say nothing was said.
The FBI released a new video timeline, including this video taken from a vehicle showing the person of interest walking past the engineering and physics building at 2:53, about an hour before the shooting. There are 1,200 cameras on Brown University's campus, but this map shows you that there is a clear blind spot. Virtually no cameras outside of the engineering and physics building, except for this camera. And this is at the emergency blue light stand for students. There's a camera at top. That camera was managed to capture the person of interest escaping from the physics and engineering building, or at least running away from it, crossing Hope Street onto Waterman. You can see the police lights are turned on at the time that he crosses. So now we've got a big question here about what happens next, because at 4:06, he goes down that street, and that's the last time we see him. And now we're seeing makeshift memorials here all over campus. You have people leaving flowers and letters, a sign here, Julie, that says, "When is enough enough?" As this community is reeling and they are searching for answers, Julie.
Brian Yennis, live in Providence, Rhode Island. Thank you so much. Paul Morrow, retired NYPD inspector, attorney, and Fox News contributor, is on the ground in Providence and joins us. Also, Nicole Parker, former FBI special agent, also a Fox News contributor. Her new book titled The Two FBIs is available now, by the way. Paul, I'll start with you. You and I were together when this story broke, and you, in fact, had the very first digital image of surveillance video that you showed me off the air that we weren't even allowed to show at the time of the suspect. And I cannot believe days later, we don't know much more.
Yeah, I think that's really an important point, Julie, because you have to say to yourself, where was the security? I know we're all analyzing the investigation and we're focusing on that. And right now, that is the most important thing. You want to get this person and make sure that the threat is mitigated. But we do have to, since you're talking about the initial aftermath, we do have to recognize that this building, which is apparently one of the most heavily traveled buildings in the university, didn't have ingress and egress video, did not have key card access that day, did not have a security guard. There were other things going on in the building. And as I said, it's right here on the edge of a residential neighborhood. It's kind of the first thing you hit as you enter the Brown area. And so you have to say to yourself, how is that security so lax? And is that one of the things that played into this building being a target?
As we reported, the FBI pieced together surveillance video, Nicole, to create a timeline of the suspect's movements before and after the shooting. And you isolated some significant points for us. This one shows him apparently casing the area. What does this video say to you? And how shocked are you, first of all, that this video has produced nothing? I mean, nobody's come in as of this video being released for questioning.
I'm actually not shocked at all because I know that Brown University is now trying to defend their posture on their security statements that they have made, but it's been an epic fail. The fact that there is no security footage from the campus and that the justification was it was an older building. Both the Attorney General and the police chief of Providence Police Department have said we have no video surveillance. That is inexcusable. I believe that Brown University's prioritization was not on the safety and security of their students. They were more focused on things like DEI efforts, and that has been catastrophic and led to the death of 2 students. I think what's important about this video surveillance that you're seeing here from a Ring doorbell camera, likely from a neighborhood individual who has been kind enough to cooperate with law enforcement and give all of this information, is that if you see, he has a very unique gait. Okay, it almost appears to me like he's waddling around. Additionally, you can see his body composition. That is going to be very difficult to hide. He can try to escape, but the way that he appears physically is very notable. And someone within the sound of the voice of those in the media, they know who this person is. And this case will be solved by someone seeing these video surveillance footages and turning it in. But I have to give credit to the FBI.
Yeah.
They are not the lead investigative agency on this. This is Obama signed the Investigative Assistance for Violent Crime Act in 2013, which allows the FBI and DOJ to assist in the aftermath of an active shooter. But this is not their jurisdiction to take primary and to take over this case. But they are doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting. I would say that they're doing the majority of the heavy lifting. Putting together all of this video footage has been phenomenal. They're doing the best that they can with what they have to work with.
I want to talk more about the timeline with you, Paul, and show you the video of the suspect who does tend to jog a bit. If you take a look here. All right. Now, let's talk about the timeline real quick. OK, the 911 call went in at 4:05. That was at about 4:06. So literally a minute after the 911 call went in, which happened within seconds, if not minutes, of the shooting actually occurring, you see someone jogging down the street.
Yeah, and that's certainly going to be one of the pieces that they're leaning on to say that this is the person of interest. They've also done a lot of interviews, and I think that they're fairly certain that the person that we're seeing as the person of interest in all of these videos is the perpetrator. And remember something else. If you are not the perpetrator and that's you in those videos, well, you would come forward and you'd say, hey, I'm not the shooter. That's me that you're showing everywhere. But I do want to focus on the fact that the videos that we're seeing, the reason that they are from residential videos is residential residency, is that, and not the campus, is because he fled into a residential area. This piece of Brown is right on the edge of a very wealthy neighborhood. And here's the rub, Julie. A lot of these houses, they're surrounded by gates and walls. They're very well set back from the street. A lot of them, I don't think, are going to have usable Ring videos. Furthermore, during the weekend, in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, a lot of the houses were not even occupied. My understanding from sourcing here is that the police were having a hard time getting usable video because there was nobody home. Now that people began to come back, or they reached out to people who were maybe away in Florida for the season or something, they've been able to get more. I'm hopeful that as time goes on, we may get video that shows either his face or maybe even shows him doing something with that backpack that appears in some of the videos and is not in others. Did he put it in a car? Well, if you get a car, you could get a plate, something like that. Those are the kinds of things I think that they're hoping for now. But one of the things that's going to almost certainly occur here as we get further out from the event is you're going to get digital stuff.
I would be remiss.
We're going to start to do that.
I would be remiss not to point out once again the fact that there is a dead zone on campus where there are no cameras, and the Brown University has come out and said that they have some 1,500 cameras on campus and that they sent out a text message to 20,000 students. Many of those students, including the student body president, didn't know about the shooting until their own mother actually called them to say that there was a shelter in place. And there is possibly no coincidence that the shooter picked a building knowing there were no security cameras. Am I onto something?
Yeah, I mean, it feels that way to me.
Absolutely onto something.
Paul, okay, both of you real quick, and then I have to go. I'm sorry, Paul?
Yeah, I think that almost certainly he's walking around beforehand. He looks like he's looking around for cameras. And as I said, he fled into a residential area. Does look like he did some casing here, but he did have to know that the building was occupied on a Saturday. It does argue some prep.
Nicole.
And again, I go back to the face mask theory that I've had since working violent crime in the FBI. Those face masks that became highly regulated during COVID are a law enforcement officer's nightmare because we do not have any clear view of his face. It's only a small smidgen of his eyes. But again, we are supportive of law enforcement. They are doing the best that we can. And again, it is going to be up to the public. If you see something and you recognize this person, please call it in. There's a $50,000 cash reward by the FBI right now. Let's solve this.
All right, and they will. Nicole Parker and Paul Morrow, thank you both for talking to us. We'll come back to you if news warrants. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily
from Denmark. Thank you, Mr. Shovel. So I feel like I have to keep saying this again and again and again because people will think this is the person of interest. So anyways, I don't know, it could be a woman. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. I mean, I just think the person's wearing a hood and a hat and it's small. And so I don't know, they don't say, they say the person. So we'll have to see. I assume they'll talk about this. And they had posted something about this earlier. Hold on a second here. Here, look. Here's more pictures of the person who is not the person of interest. Investigators are asking for the public's help in identifying and speaking to the individual shown in these photos who was in proximity of the person of interest. Now these pictures are this, I guess, the same person, but wearing different clothing. So do they think that this person knows the person of interest or maybe talked to the person of interest repeatedly or something? I don't know. I don't know. But you can see this looks to be like a different jacket than in the other one, than the other post, right? Hold on. The other post is this. That doesn't look to be a blue puffy jacket. Maybe I'm wrong. Although I don't know. I mean, it's like the person's wearing a similar hood, but maybe it's a different jacket. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the coloring is different in the picture. I don't know. Anyways.